Well, good evening. First of all, let me thank the Deputy Presiding Officer, Anne Jones, for hosting us and for sponsoring this event, and of course, Dr. Rachel Minter for organizing it, but also for the very nice introductory words that she has just pronounced. If, with your permission, I would start with two, I would say, personal comments. First of all, when I was a teenager, I developed a big passion for A.J. Cronin. And now, you know, Cronin is not Welsh, was not Welsh, he was Scottish. But his books were actually set in Wales, and they were about the difficult situation, difficult times of Welsh miners. I still remember with a pleasure, you know, reading even more than once the Citadel or the Stars Look Down. And they really have had a big influence, a big impact on me. You know, the importance of take into consideration those people who are less fortunate, the admiration, on the other hand, for those who would look after them. And this is not a message that is only for the past, because it's a message also for the present, because one of the main challenges that we are facing nowadays is in changing times, there were changing times at the time, how we manage to look after those who, for one reason or the other, feel that they are left behind by globalization, left behind by the new industrial revolution. So, as I said, it was a personal lesson for me, but I think it's a lesson that is still very valid nowadays. This is my first. Today has been my first, let's say, official day in Wales as ambassador, as Rachel was saying before. I arrived 1 year ago. But actually, my first commitment or engagement as ambassador was, again, here in Cardiff, only 4 days after I arrived on the 29th of January last year. So on the 4th of February, I came here for the first opera of the Verdi trilogy. That was really the very first official engagement that I've had in my capacity as ambassador to the UK, and because I am the patron of this trilogy, together with Prince Charles, Prince of Wales. And the opera that was performed at the time last year actually was La Forza del Destino, the power of destiny. So I'm Italian, I'm from Naples, and we do believe in the power of destiny. So I do think that if I'm here today, it's also because my destiny was to be here today. So Italy and Brexit, I will leave hopefully enough space for Q&A. So I will basically tell you talk about three main things. Well, first of all, I'd like to say a few words, actually indicate some facts about Italy and above all about the Italian economy, facts that not necessarily are known. I would then talk more specifically about Italy and the UK, Italy with the UK, and finally a few comments on Brexit. Now, some facts about the Italian economy. Of course, you all appreciate the fact that Italy is a country of history, a country of beauty. So, for instance, there is no surprise if I say that Italy is the #1 of UNESCO World Heritage sites. It's also probably not a big surprise if I say that we are the second largest world footwear exporter, the second largest world wine exporter, with Prosecco being particularly popular in this country. The second or third largest wood fashion exporter. All those things, I suppose, are not surprise because we are known for those things. It's a country of beauty, country of design. But there are less known facts about Italy and about the Italian economy. And I have to say, I've made one of my main missions here in the UK as an ambassador to make sure that people know more about those facts. So just let me say a few of them. So we are the world's second most competitive producer of industrial machinery. As a matter of fact, machinery is the main item of our export to the UK. We are the third largest European chemical producer, the first European producer of pharmaceutical goods, one of the most efficient, eco-efficient producer in Europe. So we produce 101 tons of CO2 for every million euro produced, compared to 113 in the UK and 143 in Germany. We have around 9,000 innovative startups in Italy. For this reason, I was saying, I have focused very much on this aspect. So I launched last year a couple of initiatives at the embassy. One is A to B, which means art to business, to put together art and business, what people know about the art, the Italian art, what people don't know about the business that the Italian art can produce, or the business is actually necessary to support art. But another set of initiatives that I launched is called Italy for Innovation. So all the things that we are good at in innovation. So we have had events on cybersecurity, and I know that this is particularly important for the UK, but especially for Wales. And again, showing a specific model of how to tackle cybersecurity, which means R&D, which means also taking care of course, national security, but also the economic opportunities that the cybersecurity may create. We have quite a large number, again, of small and medium enterprises which are specific and high-level know-how on cyber security. On fintech, on artificial intelligence, we had an event a couple of weeks ago actually on artificial intelligence. Life sciences again is one of those areas where there is a lot that we can do with the UK and again with here in Cardiff in Wales. So again, there is the Italy, if I can say this way, that is known. There are so many other things about my countries that are not known or not known enough. I think it is time and it is important that people have a wider perspective of what Italy is about, and also this is reflected actually in our relationship with the United Kingdom. Our bilateral trade is particularly active, particularly positive, actually, and from this point of view, I know that Brexit has not happened yet, but what the preparation of Brexit has been so far definitely has not had any effect at all on our bilateral trade with the United Kingdom. In the first 11 months of last year, so until November, the latest data I have, our bilateral trade amounts to 27.4 billion pounds. In 2017 was a little bit more than 28 billion pounds. So it shows that there's been an increase even in 2018 of approximately 6%. And we do have collaboration in very innovative sectors in I was talking about cybersecurity, but not just aerospace, green technologies. I mean, Italy is quite advanced actually in green technologies. There are companies, Italian companies, very active in the UK from this point of view. But the range of relationship between our two countries does not limit itself to trade. There is a lot that we already do and that we can do in areas such as foreign policy. The collaboration between our two countries, which many years ago was more competition rather than collaboration, is definitely now booming. And it is driven by two main factors. First of all is strategy. Especially after the Second World War, but even more in the last few years, we need this strategic alliance between Italy and the UK in Europe, but also outside Europe, and values, because there are values that we share. We share, for instance, the importance of multilateralism. We share the importance of multilateral organization. Let aside, the European Union, but NATO, United Nations, WTO, and so these share values, and therefore these share interests we have been so important in the international bodies I mentioned, but also and above all in areas such as the fight against terror, Afghanistan, anti-Daesh coalition, Libya, the Horn of Africa. Rachel was mentioning before that I was the G7 Sherpa in 2017, and we had the presidency of the G7. Our summit took place in Taormina at the end of May. And it happened, unfortunately, only a few days after the terrorist attack in Manchester. And we managed, with, of course, the full cooperation and working together with our UK colleagues to produce a G7 statement actually against the terrorism, focused again on what had happened in Manchester. So, and in the next few weeks, we will have consultation at the level of foreign ministry or foreign office, trying to identify the areas where we can deepen the cooperation between our two countries. Now, Brexit. Well, first of all, I want to say this. Since the beginning, I've made my mission, let's put it this way, that our relationship and our relations with the UK will not be affected by Brexit. Of course, there will be a new framework. If so far the relationship have been in the framework of the EU-UK, now, of course, it's going to be different at some point. But this does not mean that the bilateral relations can be affected in a negative way. Of course, probably that would not be our first choice. The Brexit, especially for the reason I was talking about before, for the intensity of the relationship between our two countries. What has been and what is our attitude as country to the Brexit? Well, first of all, of course, we respect the decision and the will of the UK people. On the other hand, we are a member, a committed member of the European Union, and we have supported from the very beginning a united approach of the European Union to the negotiation approach, also support to the European Commission. I think that actually the unity of the 27 has been a stabilizing factor in the negotiation, which has benefited not only the 27 but also the UK. It would have been much more different and much more difficult, probably, I would say, if the EU had not been so united in supporting our chief negotiator, the European Commission. We have, as a country, of course, we still have some priorities. The first one is actually the rights of our citizens. We have quite a large community in the UK. We estimate that the Italians living in the UK are approximately 700,000. Of course, most of them live in sort of the London areas, but there's quite an active Italian community also here in Wales. We estimate approximately 12,000 the Italian living in Wales, specifically, mostly in Cardiff and in Swansea. The other priority, of course, is trade, for obvious reason. I was saying before, first of all, because of the nature of the bilateral trade we have, bilateral relations we have with the United Kingdom. But generally speaking, of course, Italy is a country that is open, is an exporting country. So anything that could affect trade, of course, is seen with by us, of course, with some concern, and that's also the case of Brexit. In case we don't have at the end a satisfactory agreement within trade, a specific issue for us is the protection of geographical indication. This is the point that we made in any trade negotiations. Mozzarella is not mozzabella. Parmigiano is Parmigiano and not Parmesano, or the different ways that it is called. It's not only because we think it's nice that things are called with the proper name. It's a serious threat, not only to the quality but to the free trade. So we make that an important point in any trade negotiation. And since we belong to the European Union, you know that the commercial policy is part of the EU and the Commission competences. But when we give a mandate to the European Commission, one of the points is always about the protection of geographical indication. Of course, financial stability. We do have, Borsa Milano has got a special connection or relationship with the London Stock Exchange. So also from that point of view, we are trying to be very, very constructive so that, again, all the parts relating to financial services would be taken care of. And of course there is a wider range of issues. Keeping in mind one thing that I think sometimes it is somehow, I don't know if it's ignored or not taken into consideration. What we have been talking so far is the withdrawal agreement. We have not even started to talk about or even to think about, if you like, the future relationship, because that should be the real focus. What kind of relationship the EU and the UK will have in the future. Now, the whole thing is about the withdrawal agreement. We want to make sure that that happened in a smooth way, in a way that does not, as I was saying before, jeopardize all what we have built in those 47, 48 years of the UK being part of the European Union. Of course, there is the backstop, and perhaps before the referendum or just after the referendum at the beginning of the negotiations, I don't know how many people actually knew that would be actually the stumbling block of the negotiations, but it is, and there is. It would be wrong to assume that the European Union is using it only as a sort of tool, you know, to use against the other part, in this case, United Kingdom. Is an essential part of the negotiation for the European Union, not only because it's essential for one of our member states, of course, the Republic of Ireland, but because we do believe that it's essential to preserve what has been one of the main achievements, if you like, of the last 20-25 years, which is the Good Friday Agreement, where the European Union has had an important part. But also it's important because without the backstop, one of the main, if not the main principle on which the European Union is based would be seriously undermined, and that's the unity of the four freedom. And again, it's not an ideological approach, it's because the European Union is based on those principles. And if you undermine one, then you may as well undermine the whole constructions, the whole building. So here we are. I mean, as I was saying before, there are only less than 50 days, 47, 48 days. We do hope that there will be, at the end, an agreement. The worst scenario is actually the no-deal scenario. I want to say quite clearly, without, of course, questioning different position on the issue, but from our point of view, we must do all we can to make sure that at the end there is an orderly exit. There is therefore an agreement. I was saying at the beginning that last year I was here for the opera La Forza del Destino. I was here as well on Saturday for the second part of the trilogy, Un ballo in maschera, a masked ball. So I can conclude by saying that Brexit definitely is not a ball, has not been a ball, and luckily, and I go back to the unity of the 2027, has not been a masked one. Everything has been in the open from the very beginning, from both sides. And this actually gives me hope that at the end of all these, not only there will be an agreement, but we will create a solid basis for the future relationship between the European Union and the UK, between Italy and the UK. Thank you.